Hi, this is Stefan Scheuermann with TradeAtomy.com. Global TrendLines for TradeStation is the app that I'm gonna showcase in this video. And just in a nutshell, in case you came across this video without having any information what the app does, the app does allow you to use global trend lines and global horizontal lines, and also new in this version, global Fibonacci retracements. Global means that the lines synchronize and replicate across multiple charts. So you draw them on one chart and you have the same line appear on another chart. This can happen in any direction, bidirectional, unidirectional, across the different symbols, across the same symbol, across the same symbol, with limitations. So you have full control over the synchronization directions, but more on that later. As said, I just want to have a very quick overview on what the app does. So whenever you change any of these settings on one chart, they are gonna replicate on the other chart. And as said, that works for different types of lines. And that's it for a very quick overview. We are gonna start now with chapter number 1. That is the filter settings. That's probably the first thing that you want to set up after you download the app from the TradeStation trading app store. And we're gonna look into almost all the details of the indicator during this video. Alright, welcome to chapter 1. I just want to quickly show you the website. When you go to TradeAtomy.com and go directly to products, and you see the apps that I'm offering, and there's also the global trend lines. Click on learn more, then you are brought to the details page, and from here you can have the link to the TradeStation app store where you can start a free trial. You can download the user manual, and you will find the video that I'm just recording also here on this page. Alright, so back to the chart. I deleted all the lines that we had in the quick overview that we just did. And now after you started the free trial for the app, you would typically go to insert indicator, and you will find the app in the list of your indicators here. I'm using TradeStation 9.5. So if you use TradeStation 10, you will find it. I think you go to studies and then add study, and then it will be there for you. I'm using 9.5 for various reasons. One of them being that I want to develop my apps being compatible also with 9.5 users. So need to test it somehow. Generally, I would probably suggest, especially new users, to start with TradeStation 10. Alright, so after you have added the indicator to the chart, you will have it in the list of your analysis techniques, and you can go to the input settings of the indicator. And our first input is the drawing object that we want to work with. So we can choose between trend lines, horizontal lines. B is the short version for both. So what exactly the values that you can insert here exactly are laid out in the user manual. So you don't have to go and search in the video where I say that. You can find the exact information in the user manual. And what I want to focus on now is the color and style filter. And these are two inputs that I have developed, having in mind that people might want to use their drawing object also for other reasons. So this filter decides if the drawing object you put on a chart is going to be adopted by the app or not. So in this case, we say we want only adopt drawing objects that have a red color and a solid style. Alright, so if I draw a trend line now on my chart, the color is obviously not red, the style is solid, so if I want this line to be adopted from the indicator, I have to change it to red. And then I'm on the next click, gonna be adopted. We see it's already replicated on the daily chart over here. So that's an important feature that enables you to decide which drawing objects you want to use with the indicator. What you can do is you can either set up the inputs to fit your default settings. So if I would change the color filter to magenta here, that would mean that every trend line that I draw on the chart, because that's obviously my default color for trend lines, will be adopted immediately, right? So and this default settings like style and colors from a line can also be changed. So you can set it up the way you like. Either have every trend line adopted immediately, or filter them based on the color and make them match the filter settings only when you need them. You can also turn off the filter altogether, so it won't even check for any color or style. I think the settings are -1 for the color and empty quotes for the style filter. Again, all these settings possibilities are described in the manual. So whenever you draw now any trend line, whatever the style and the color is immediately adopted by the indicator. And this filter works the same way for horizontal lines and trend lines. And there is one exception with the new version, and that is for the Fibonacci retracements. For the Fibonacci retracement, you don't need to have a trend line fitting the filter settings. So the shortcut for the Fibonacci retracement will work on any trend line, either if it's adopted or not, doesn't matter in that case. The default shortcut for the Fibonacci retracement is Shift, so I hold the Shift button and I click on any line on the chart. Then I get the Fibonacci retracement settings up here, and when I click OK, the trend line is converted into a Fibonacci retracement set. Okay, some more details for the synchronization process. We have all the style properties are going to be synchronized. So if we go to Format, Trend Line, and we go to Style, everything that can be set up here is synchronized across the charts. So we're going to change the transparency, the style, and the color, etc. It's all going to replicate. The labels and the alert settings are not synchronized. The traditional way of deleting trend lines by marking them and hitting the delete button, or right-clicking and select remove trend line, will not work as usual with TradeStation, since the trend line, once it's adapted by the indicator, it is part of the indicator. So deleting the trend line would remove the indicator from the chart. So in order to get around that, I programmed a shortcut, and that is when you hold the control button on your keyboard and you left click on the line, that will remove the line from all the charts. These shortcuts can also be changed. That's important, especially for the people that are working with chart trading. In chart trading, when you hold control and click somewhere, it would place orders, so keep that in mind. I will record a separate chapter for the advanced settings where you can change the keyboard shortcuts. Another keyboard shortcut is when you hold your Alt key pressed and click on a line, then you get this little edit price data dialog where you can just fine-tune the start and the end price of the trend line. The last thing that I want to talk about in this chapter is the grouping feature. And the group is input of the indicator, and the default setting is auto. That means the symbol, in this case AAPL, is used for the group. The group defines which instances of the indicator will share the lines with each other. So in this case we have AAPL. That means on all our indicators with the Apple symbol and the indicator applied with the auto group will also show up the lines. So I want to go through a more advanced scenario now. Would be we want to have the lines that we draw on the two intraday charts not being replicated to the daily chart, but we want the lines that we draw on the daily chart to be replicated on our intraday charts. So what we should first do in a scenario like this is we should work with filters. So at least one of the filters should be set, and change our group, and we make this an intraday group. And now important is we can share the lines even across different symbols. So now whatever indicator would have the group intraday would show up the lines, even if it's a Forex chart or the E-mini futures, Cocoa futures, Amazon chart, whatever. So in order to make the group dependent on the symbol that is on the chart, we use our little placeholder that is @SYM in small letters, and that will automatically generate the symbol name into the group. So this group name would eventually end up being intraday AAPL. So we use this group, and we also apply it on the other intraday chart. And we see already that the lines are disappearing because this group is new and it has no lines yet. So whatever lines we draw now on the intraday chart and we make it match our red color filter will only be synchronized between these two charts. And our normal Apple group is not going to synchronize with any other chart at the moment. So now what we can do is we can have a second instance of the indicator on a chart. So we are adding the global trend lines indicator once again with, let's say on the 60-minute chart we want to have both drawing objects. We want for this instance of the indicator we only want to receive drawing objects. So we want to have the color filter something that we never use. So we say black as a color we don't use, and we leave the group with auto. So it's the same like on the daily chart, and this way we will receive the line from the daily chart, but this line, as it belongs to another group, will not be replicated to the daily chart. Now it's important that we have different filter settings for the two instances of the indicator, right? We have our intraday one that we use with red lines, and we have like a filter style of no filter. So that means all red lines are going to be adopted. And our second instance that we use to receive only data from the daily chart, we have black and solid. We don't want to have the filters to be the same, because whenever we would draw a trend line here that matches two different filters, they would compete for the trend line. Alright, so and we do the same now on the 15-minute chart, with the little difference that we want for this instance, we want to receive lines from the daily chart, but this time we leave the HL for horizontal lines, and we put again a color filter of something that we never use. It could also be dark green, for example. So just knowing I will never draw a dark green line on this chart. And we have the second instance here. It's not going to show the trend line from the daily chart, as we say we are only interested in horizontal lines. So that means if we draw a horizontal support line here on the daily chart and make it fit the red color filter for the daily chart, we will have now this line replicated to the 15-minute chart and also to the 60-minute chart. But as said, the trend line from the daily chart will not be shown here. Alright, so I hope that gives you a little insight into the grouping feature. It's very powerful when you work with the grouping, the filters, and multiple instances of the indicator on a single chart. You can pretty much implement any scenario you could think of. Fibonacci Retracements, brand new feature with version 6, and I developed that by popular demand. Quite a few people texted me if it's not possible to develop that, and actually it's not that easy because we developers have no access to the Fibonacci tool from TradeStation. So what I had to do in order to implement that was to develop the Fibonacci retracement tool from scratch myself. So here's how it works. First thing you want to make sure is the settings. So you need to have the TrendLines drawing objects allowed. So either you work with both or you have TrendLine only allowed. If you have horizontal lines only, it won't work. And then you want to set the global Fibonacci input to true. And there is another input where you can control the font size of the labels. So let's look at how that looks like. So you start with drawing a trend line. So you use a normal trend line tool, and in this case it doesn't matter if the filter settings match or not. Every trend line that you put on a chart can be used for a Fibonacci retracement. And then we have again a keyboard shortcut for this. In this case it's Shift. You can also change it as said. Can check the advanced settings chapter for that. So I hold the Shift button pressed on my keyboard and I click on the line, and what comes up is the global trend lines Fibonacci dialog. It comes up 2 times here now. Why is that? Yeah, we have the group Apple and we have the group intraday Apple. So here you can actually see in what group the Fibonacci is gonna land. This is probably something, if you have the indicator multiple times on a chart, you either have to organize that like I do it now, with like canceling one of them, decide which one you want to have it on, or ideally if you have the global Fibonacci input only set to true for one of the instances of the indicator. So I'm gonna go for the Apple group here. I tried to make it very similar to the standard one that you're used to use from TradeStation, and it comes up with the default preset, and from there it pretty much works the same like you know it from the TradeStation standard tool. You can select the line color, the style, weight, transparency, and you have a little preview here for the color, how that's gonna look like on the chart. So we're gonna hit OK here, and that's gonna transform our trend line into a Fibonacci retracement. Now we have this trend line where we can control the size of the Fibonacci retracement, and then as everything here is constructed technically with trend lines, you can track them up and down. That's just gonna move the location of the Fibonacci retracement. And this font size input that we just saw in the indicator settings is the font size for these labels. So you can increase and decrease them accordingly. Of course, when you make it very small, then at some point it becomes very hard to read. You can, again, using the control button on the keyboard, delete single lines from the retracement. So remove them, and we see how it synchronizes in with the other Apple group instance. And if you hold control and you click on the trend line itself, that would remove the whole Fibonacci retracement set. Okay, we draw another one and we open the settings. Again, by the way, you can always come back to the settings if you hold Shift and click on one of the elements of the Fibonacci retracement. So we could also change them here and hit OK, and that's gonna reflect on our Fibonacci retracement here. Another feature I have built in is the preset feature, and you can set up your Fibonacci, something that you often use, and you can save it as a preset. Say we want to have that extended right and locked. We can save that with a name that we choose, and we save that, and now we have a preset here. So whenever we have a new Fibonacci retracement or an existing group, we can just select the preset and the settings are pulled accordingly. There is some management for the presets. You can change the sorting, so if you want to have my preset appear first in this list, it's actually the sort order of this drop down here, and the default preset cannot be deleted, but all the custom presets can also be deleted from here. Other than that, I think that's pretty much self-explanatory. There is a link that opens up my website with the documentation, and you can also change the style and the attributes from here. So if we remove the extend right and we want to move it around, we can remove the lock here, and of course that information is synchronized, and it's also going to reflect in the settings of the Fibonacci retracement here. When the indicator is first started, it is going to create a directory called TRADEATOMY in your documents folder, and if you open it here, you will have probably one folder with the name of the indicator. It's not exactly the same like my development version here, and in here you find all the groups with the data of the lines and the Fibonacci retracements, and the advanced settings can be changed in the settings.xml. So what you find in the settings.xml is the shortcut for delete, shortcut for the edit prices, and the shortcut for Fibonacci. The keys available are Control, Alt and Shift, and you can combine them. For example, you're using chart trading and you can't work with Control, so you could say Control plus Alt, and that would mean you need to keep both keys pressed when you click on a line in order to delete it. Also in this settings file are the presets, so there's a default preset and there are also the custom presets in case you create any. So we're gonna have shortcut delete, Control and Alt, and for the edit prices we type Alt and Shift. Must be Shift. And after you save that, you have to restart your indicator. We're gonna restart this one. And from now on, if you hold Control and click something, nothing is gonna happen. You have to now press both the buttons, Control and Alt together. And by doing that, you can now delete the lines. And we have set up Alt and Shift now for the edit price dialog. One more remark: in case you restore the default settings, you can simply delete the whole file, and the next time you will restart the indicator, it's going to be created with the default settings once again. That's it for this video. Thank you for your interest in the Global TrendLines app. You can check out my website TradeAtomy.com to start a free trial. You can also check out some of my other apps, and if you have questions or any feedback, you can reach me at steffen@tradeatomy.com.